Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast, where faith meets the front lines of culture.
We break down what's happening in the world, what's behind it, and how believers can stand strong in truth.
We're not here to fear the times, we're here to understand them.
Because being watchmen means staying awake, staying ready, and staying grounded in the Word.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Modern Watchman podcast.
With Tom and Wendy. Hello. How are you?
I always think you're talking to the audience every time.
I'm talking to everybody, but you included.
I am great.
You're always my audience. You know, for my show that I'm always putting on for you.
Okay.
Today, what do we got for today, Tom?
Today,
Well, first of all, just so you know what it's like to be a Cunningham is we went to baseball all day, 100 million days, hours of days, and just me, Tom, and my son Merritt. And on the way, what was it, like an hour and 40-minute drive?
something like that.
We listened to history videos on YouTube. So that's, if you want to be as knowledgeable and well-versed as we are, you too can road trip or YouTube your road trips and gain all kinds of thoughts and wisdom around
You can gain all kinds of thoughts.
certain thoughts and topics. But this thought and this podcast was born out of that morning drive. And it also, we make it about 38 seconds and then we pause it and discuss the last 3 sentences of the video. Then we let 4 or 5 more sentences go and then we pause it and we're like, hold on. Do you know this? Do you know this? What about this? What about this? And then we let the video go. So it's really frustrating, I'm sure, if you were in the back seat, let's say, of our road trip. But that's how we absorb it better, I feel. Or at least how I absorb it better.
Yeah, I like to ponder things, and
Would you say that you listen, like in your consumption of data, because you don't listen to the radio typically?
No longer. I used to be a big radio listener. I just completely swore it off. It's just a cesspool of indoctrination and rhinos and
So what I meant was like music.
I go back and forth. There are times when I just don't want to stimulate my brain intellectually in that way.
Sure.
Music can bring us like calmness, and it depends on the vibe,
Well, you obviously don't ride around with my children very much because their
I do.
music playlists
I
are...
do. And there's lots of, we're going to
Yeah.
listen to this. But you know what? It's amazing how much rubs off on them because they'll ask me questions like, usually it's like 3 days later, randomly.
About a song.
No, about a video or a topic we were listening to.
Oh, sure. Well,
But yes, we also listen to music.
it is funny what they are inclined to listen to also, because that rubs off on them from what you listen and expose them to. But right now, my Merritt is in a Michael Jackson phase, not like old school Michael Jackson phase. And I don't
He
know
knows
how
songs. First of all, I'm a horrible Michael Jackson fan.
You are. Don't touch that.
Sorry. He knows songs that I didn't even know existed.
He
of
really
Michael
does.
Jackson's.
Like, PYT is in his head right now. And I forgot that's a song that is great and gets stuck in your head. But how did he get stuck on a Michael Jackson?
Because we went to Mexico and they had a Michael
my
Jackson
gosh, is that why?
impersonator show. Oh yeah, that's where it all came from.
That's
And
hilarious.
And he's been dancing ever since too.
Dancing?
Well, you know how he does his like airwalk
Oh,
thing?
that's not from Michael Jackson. That's from YouTube.
It's also partly from Michael Jackson because they've been on this kick with Michael Jackson.
And then he was like, when did Michael Jackson die? Because he just remastered this album.
No, he said, when did Michael Jackson die? Because he remastered his album in 2012.
Yeah.
Or something like
Excellent. Which I did look up when he died, and I was surprised.
It was like 2009 or something.
Yeah, it was longer than I thought it was
2012,
ago.
I don't know.
all that to say,
Keep track.
oh, you don't consume. No, my question was, do you consume more history information as you're out driving about, or more political information, or more like news-based information, or all of the above?
I like to compare and contrast, right? Because like current of history helps us understand and put context to current events.
Sure.
So like when we're talking about the price of gold, when we're talking about the Middle East, when we're talking about currencies, the rise and fall of currencies, and like all that stuff, it's like it's nothing is new under the sun, right? Like humanity has walked through some of these things before. It doesn't mean that it's going to play out exactly the way it played out before, but if you're trying to like just understand the
Gives you a good
scope
lens.
of possibilities from this end of the spectrum to this end of the spectrum, this is what it might look like. It can definitely start to paint a picture. I got really obsessive with in my hyperinflation concerns, looking at different countries that have experienced them. And then, of course, Venezuela, which is back in the news right now, kind of, is one of the most recent countries to experience hyperinflation. And I was just so excited, which sounds sad or bad, but like I was so excited for them. But like, so excited to have a more current example of like what was life like in Venezuela for Venezuelans when that happened, because instead of reaching way back to like, post World War I Germany, during that hyperinflation, which is still very modern, but not nearly as modern as like 2010 Venezuela, So yeah, it's just a lot. But again, it kind of depends.
Kind of pivot back and forth.
I mean, there's times like when the Fed is about to meet or just lowered rates or something, I look for that. I want to get a little bit of that. When if a topic comes to mind that I'm like, this is something I just want to understand better, I might look into that. And I really do try to get like more than one point of view, like if I'm researching APAC or something, I try to find out like, give me the best argument for APAC, and then give me I know that I'll be able to, my algorithm will show me the
what you
argument
think
against APAC, whatever you want to say. So I really do try to like get both sides of the spectrum there. But yeah, I just do really enjoy history in general.
I would say I consume primarily political and cultural news content audibly, but then I read I read a lot of historical fiction, which actually is a really good way to understand a particular event, I will say, because like I came away, I read a historical fiction, not a trinity, but not a trio, but what is it called? 3-book series.
A 3-book series.
No, it's like that.
A series.
It's like The Lord of the Rings is a
trilogy.
There it is. Trilogy.
Incredible.
I read a trilogy.
Tri-series.
Tri-series. About the Russian side of World War II, like the characters set in Russia during World War II. And that really gave me such a, anchoring understanding. I mean, obviously I'm pretty familiar with World War II specifically, but not really from the Russian standpoint, and definitely not what their pinch points were and, crises and whatever. It's unique in each country, but I think historical fiction is a great tool. I want to write a historical fiction novel at someday. And then I also will read, like I referenced on our last episode, Live Not by Lies, which is a historical nonfiction, but I wouldn't call it like a history book. It was just kind of about a particular.
Well, some of those like autobiographies or biographies that are not fiction, but they are people's very fascinating lives and
Yeah,
fascinating
like Bonhoeffer,
times.
I read that, and
Right.
that's 100 million billion pages.
You know what my favorite, not to jump back to it, but probably some of my favorite stuff I've ever found on YouTube is, it's not one channel, but it's a lot of these like public access. Like there's people in the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota, in Texas that are like, some of them are done by like county libraries, or public access like TV type stuff where they read pioneer settlers' diaries like an audible book, like a audio book, but these are not published works. You don't know, they're not like a book you can buy, but they literally have these diaries like in their archives.
That's cool.
And so they archive them into YouTube by reading them, and they are some of the most fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be actually a really good resource for a historical fiction.
Oh yeah, and actually, I mean, there's a bunch of it, but we could do a whole thing on that. But like it's so exciting to me when I find something that is like unique and fresh, but like firsthand account. You know what I mean? Of like of a woman being abducted by Indians on the plains, and it's like wild stuff, and it's just so. I love like the insight into things. I love when I get to peek behind the curtain of the fake history we learn. You know what I mean? Because like, especially in the realm of like cowboys and Indians, you know what I mean? Like all the just like layers of like bias on for both sides. Absolutely. Don't get me like, it's all just kind of messed up. And sure, like there is something beautiful and romantic of like the Western movie cowboys and Indians that, we all just like have this great feeling about, John Wayne and all that. But like really, there's just, that's such a minute, very small amount of like truth and reality in that. And to just get a like real look behind the curtains of like what it was really like is just awesome. I dig that stuff.
Yeah. Cool. I had a thought. I was thinking that I'm also a history teacher to my children. And so I feel like I do a little bit of history every day. And sometimes that goes into further study of YouTube and different things.
They're actually making a movie of one of the last books I read, and I can't think of it right now.
Foxhole one?
No.
What was the book you just bought? Did you buy that today? Yeah, you bought it today.
I bought a book today.
At Hobby Lobby.
Oh, that was
Phil Robinson.
Phil Robinson.
That's funny. Well, what we wanted to dig into today in regards to what we learned, well, not learned, but recapped today. We watched a video. I'll actually link it. Will you make sure to send me the video if you can find it in your history? And I'll link it in the show notes. But it was essentially going over the pattern of revolution, or I should say the pattern that leads to revolution. There was like 6 steps that he examined in the French Revolution, and then the Russian Revolution, Bolshevik Revolution, and then Cuba. And then after going through each of those and looking at the various, the 6 stages of the revolution, he, then looked at that pattern as it is applicable to us here in the United States. And if there are 6 stages, he judged that we're in the 4th stage. So did you write down the stages?
Yeah, he compared it to then, what stage the United States is in. And obviously, like, we're not, if you're listening to this podcast, your ears are probably tuned just to that, like, you've thought about it, people are we going to have civil war? Are we going to have a revolution? And what I guess I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We can go kind of into the steps, but it's again, history teaches you so much about current events, right? How to interpret
use it as
that.
A lens, yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the French Revolution. the Russian actually like
Bolshevik
overthrow.
Revolution.
It's really not the Bolshevik. It was initially the Tsar Nicholas,
Okay.
and then the Cuban Revolution. So it's King Louis, the whatever I forget,
And Marie Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette, and then Tsar Nicholas, and the Bautista. I forget his first name in Cuba, Cuba, but there's always, it starts with extreme wealth inequality, which I think, everyone can agree. And actually, he lays out some great statistics there where in the United States, our wealth inequality is actually substantially worse than France's.
Any of those.
That's true, any of them.
Than any of those.
And I mean, I think there's no doubt about it. And what it really comes down to is you can have wealth inequality, but I think when it starts to matter is when, like in France, there was wealth inequality, but they had a harsh winter and a bad harvest, and they were short on bread, and the masses got hungry. So you can get away with a wealth inequality if people have
what they need.
When that starts to show up in hunger and lack, then it really starts to matter that there's a wealth inequality. And then government corruption and incompetence, I think, that's number 2. I think we're there.
Let's go back to the wealth inequality. The reason why that's, significant for us here in the United States recently is because of the kind of stage 2 being the corruption of the government. Our spending has led us into an inflationary environment over the last 5-6 years that has made the regular things that we took for granted were easy to get, like, groceries, gas, homes. I don't mean like cheap things, but I just mean like the things that we used to be able to afford
the things we need
as the middle class are getting more and more dramatically out of reach, primarily home prices right now. And we were talking about the vehicle industry.
Even new car prices. I mean,
it's just out of reach.
We're preaching to the choir. I'm sure all of
Yeah.
you can relate in one or all of the ways that
Things have been expensive. It's been hard,
healthcare.
Yeah. But recently, like as in the last couple of years, it has really just, hit a fever pitch. That's becoming significant when you're looking at this pattern that leads to revolution. Okay, now you can go to step 2.
So we have extreme wealth inequality, then government corruption and incompetence.
This is speaking to not just like, oh, we don't have faith in our, leadership, but, he brought up in the video that half of the country is fully convinced that the 2020 election was fraudulent, and half of the country believes that the J6 event was an attempted coup on our government. It's like this distrust of the entirety of the other side. Everyone is viewing the FBI as political, the DOJ as political, no longer legitimate institutions that are separate.
Well, and I really think number 2 is more of what we just said. Like we need the government to facilitate commerce, etc., in such a manner that we can live our lives, and we are struggling to do that now in all of the classes except for the
hyper
fully upper class. The third is middle class collapse and radicalization. And we were talking about this, like radicalization. He actually used a line, the failure, when the moderate fail to provide these things, the
radical gains traction, gains momentum.
Exactly. So like what we see is the radicalization of the left, the radicalization of the right is in a response to the failure of the provision. And I don't mean like the freebies, but like the provision of a government that can deliver institutions that work. You know what I mean? It's like
justice,
a
police
justice
reform.
system of a system of law and order that leads to justice. I mean, look at the corruption in that, from
Top to bottom.
J6 to the Epstein to just in general the corporate corruption, where corporations get away with things and we all sit here knowing it's wrong, from the pharmaceutical industry to the agricultural chemical industry to, I mean, you name it. When
Fauci will never do a day of his life in prison. Just untouchables, the untouchables.
When the moderate fail to provide a system of law and order that leads to justice,
radicalization.
Radicalization occurs.
To both sides, yeah.
Yeah, to just in general. And then loss of faith in institutions.
This is number 4.
Which is really that, like, I mean, just look at our institutions today, from the FBI to the Department of Education to the IRS to
DOJ.
The DOJ to
CIA.
The CIA. I mean, go on
Court
and on
systems,
and on.
Police force.
The FDA. Like, look, the
Jokes.
FDA has been just
CDC.
the CDC.
Point
Absolutely.
to one that's good. Point to one that you have faith in.
The USDA. I mean, literally, it's hard to even say they're functioning outside of their ability to function corruption.
The medical system.
To foment corruption.
That was really expedited, obviously, during COVID with, the medical system I'm thinking of primarily, but that was also the exposure of the CDC, the FDA, all of those started to collapse under the COVID nonsense, the junk science, all of that we're now, always in hindsight, able to admit very clearly that, yep, we made up the 6 feet rule, and yep, we knew that masks weren't ever going to work, and yep, the vaccine has negative efficacy and has probably killed more people than all of our collective wars combined.
I mean, even looking at the government shutdown, I mean, if you talk about a loss of faith in institutions, I mean,
it's rampant.
It's hard for me, at least as a citizen, to look out at the vast landscape of our massive federal bureaucracy and find something that looks like it's functioning well. I'm not trying to be overly critical. It's like, but seriously though, we are at an all-time low. And I think that I'm not alone in that. The majority of America is repulsed by.
And both sides. It's not just one side. It's both sides have lost faith. Both sides think of the institutions as weaponized, biased, political,
corrupt, incompetent.
Absolutely.
And that is really important to know, that this isn't a, like, one side needs to feel this way. And I think it's possible to have revolution with one side feeling this way if that side is big enough. But I actually think usually it's a pretty mass agreed upon thing that, like, the government is just not working. And I do believe we're in that at that point.
Well, and I just want to reiterate, this list came from examining the 3 revolutions from history, and now is being applied to where are we sitting. It sounds so far like the list is made according to where America is. It's like, no. The opposite. We're applying a list from history to America.
It's important to note too, there's other revolutions you could look at. We could
Absolutely,
look at, so these are just 3 revolutions.
3 major ones.
And there are all sort. I also don't want to come off too strong as like,
this is happening.
Because, but really the thesis that we're going to get to here at the end.
Let's get there.
We'll get there. But
we'll get there. It's not doom and gloom.
The 5th is revolutionary movement gains mass support.
We're not there yet. Here in the United States.
We're not there yet, but man, I feel like
rumors.
It's just
it's on the tip.
And revolutionary movement gains mass support. I think that's usually takes kind of like some odd trigger, but it can happen at any time. Like it's a a little bit and then all at once kind of thing.
We are kind of experiencing a moment of that post Charlie Kirk's assassination where we're starting to see, well, we're not starting to see, we're seeing this radical rhetoric of violence being outwardly spoken about, promoted, and no one on that, I'm speaking of the left, is condemning it or...
I don't know if that's the revolutionary movement gains mass support.
No, of course not. But it's the spirit of what they're saying is we need more killings. Like we need more action that would be a violent
I think it's more
uprising.
of like, I think it's more, so right now, you know, we're staring down the barrel of 40 million people losing their SNAP EBT benefits. Well, it would be more like when the government fully collapses and can't pay SNAP, veterans benefits, and Social Security, like that would have everyone from every walk of life would be in the streets. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? That would be more of a mass support situation. I mean, you're talking, they were able to just, in Russia, the Tsar Nicholas ordered federal troops to fire upon the crowds
when they
refused to, because the crowds were, it was literally everyone. And the army said, no, actually, it's like all of them against you. We're not going to do it. We're with them. That was how
mutiny,
how broad the support was. It wasn't a party or a single state. You know what I mean? It was everyone was at the gate, and that's what, you know.
Sure. There's an interesting thing I forgot was going to happen, and it's ironically timed. It kicked in today that I read about this morning that I forgot. In the big, beautiful bill, which we keep talking about, but not talking about, there was adjustments made to SNAP benefits. And the numbers that I was looking at in California, gosh, didn't I say like 650,000 people will be affected by the new, because there's new work requirements that are stricter for SNAP benefits, and it's 1 in 7 people in the state of California, just that state, are in some way utilizing SNAP benefits, and a huge amount of them will lose their benefits because the work requirement is stricter. That kicked in today, November 1st. The second piece is that there was 70,000 non-citizens who currently get SNAP that will no longer be getting it as of today in California. That's just one state's numbers. That was effective November 1st from the big, beautiful bill. So it's ironic that that's also impacting the SNAP program starting today as well. It's kind of weird timing, but there's going to be a dramatic upheaval in this category that is yet to kind of be seen how that's going to unravel.
The last one is government overthrown and chaos follows. And this is...
We're not there.
This is really where, like...
We started to talk about it.
Yeah, where the rubber meets the road, and what it made me think about, I guess, in relation to... in America... When we think of revolution, I think of the American Revolution, right? 1776, Independence Day, 4th of July, Thomas Jefferson.
Positive thing.
Yeah, the Constitution, you know, all these things that came out of, we beat Britain, you know, all that.
The fruit.
We have a lot of positive feelings towards the word revolution in America. And what's interesting about all three of these examples, France, Russia, Cuba, is first they did overthrow the government.
Because it was so bad.
They beheaded the king and queen of France.
And the kids.
And no, that was Tsar Nicholas.
No, they also beheaded.
Oh, okay. Well,
the kids, or maybe they didn't behead them, but they killed them because they were the heirs to the throne.
Sure, maybe. And then in Russia, similar, they did the same thing. They killed the whole family.
In the basement.
Took over. And then in Cuba, Batista fled to the Dominican Republic.
With like a lot of millions.
300 million, they said. Either way, then what? Then there's the vacuum of power, right? And when true chaos, that true no one
leadership,
has
no
control,
governance,
what naturally takes hold is the
dictatorship.
the meanest, most powerful, most willing to do whatever it takes to take power
person
or entity or
People.
group, right? And in France, it ended up being Napoleon Bonaparte.
After some serious chaos for a period of time. He
Which-
didn't come in immediately. He did it through a coup. But it was
The National Assembly that was like came out of the or not, maybe it wasn't what it was called, I forget, but basically the rebellion kind of ate itself, and the vacuum needed somebody, and a sect of those people got Napoleon into power, and Napoleon led them on 15 years of war, bankrupted France. Like it wasn't so much
worse.
that Napoleon was like he was a dictator, but it wasn't so much that he was like a evil secret police abduct his critics in the night and torture them dictator like so many of them are. But he was not good for France. It was
Well, the monarchy, which I didn't remember this, the monarchy had ruled France for 800 years leading up to this revolution. So they had been very used to the situation, the structure of government, the way that it was. And so obviously it got bad, again, not because, yes, whatever his name was, whoever the king was, King Louis was a bad leader, and he was a weak leader, and they had a badly timed poor harvest where people started to starve. So there was kind of a pinch point there that happened. But yeah, Napoleon was radically different and much worse for the people based on what they had before the revolution. And similarly in Russia, we got Stalin, not we, but they got
Lenin.
I'm sorry, you're right. Lenin came out of that vacuum.
Yeah, basically chaos first.
Lots of killing.
And then the Bolsheviks were the group that rose kind of, and
Beat their
again,
way to
it
the
was
top.
because they were the most willing to do the most
Immoral.
heinous, immoral things to grab power. And Lenin led the Bolsheviks basically at some point kind of took power. And then in Cuba's case, Castro came in, and we all know how that kind of went too. Same thing, classic dictator,
Communist regime.
secret police. And the truth is Bautista had the same thing. He had secret police that abducted his critics, that tortured them, and blah blah blah. But Fidel ended up doing the same exact thing. So they went through all this chaos and
got nothing better.
instability for no better. So what we're getting at here is revolutions.
That's usually how it goes. It's not good.
Are usually end up in a same or worse result because that vacuum of leadership, of power
Is filled with evil.
is filled with the worst, not the best. That's not how nature works. Nature is usually won by the dominant, right? And dominant is not moral, right? Dominant is just that, dominant.
Forceful. Yeah.
And it made me really think, like, man, how did we in America get the most peaceful, most
Fair,
just
non-bloody, much better result.
free marketed, just individual liberty? Like, how did we get the most beautiful form of governance
Out of a revolution.
When
that's not typically the case.
And the only thing that I could really think, like, and I could be wrong, and I'm open to hearing feedback from someone if you have other insight. I was like, the true through line that I see here is that the 13 colonies were, North America was settled by Christians who wanted religious freedom. And that's what brought the Pilgrims here, and the Quakers here, many other groups of people that set out from Europe.
Were usually escaping some sort of either persecution, or like the Puritans wanted to further purify the church. It was to be more religious or more devout.
Well, and we could get into a whole bunch there because, what was the king that divorced and created the Church of England and all that? Was it Henry? There's no Harry, but
there is a Harry.
Well, there is now, but either way,
Henry
there was a lot.
Henry VIII.
The 13 colonies were very, very, very predominantly Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And while all Christians fall short of the glory of God, we generally carry an innate value system, a set of morals that we know we are held to
as individuals.
Whether we live up to them or not, we hold them. And that set of values was what I see as the common denominator in when our forefathers took pen to paper to not just allow, like they knew they didn't want a king, right? They were so specific about that. And we weren't going to overthrow one king in exchange for another.
Mm-hmm.
And what we took from that is just such a miracle in and of itself, that rather than allow for one king to be replaced by another worse ruler, to actually be able to set a what would you say? I mean, it's hard to put into words, I guess, but just basically a framework,
a foundation that
was based off of
Christian,
some of these
Judeo-Christian value sets.
Absolutely. And
morals, the code.
What that told me, so now I'm taking it another step, is if we fear that we're headed towards a revolution, if we desire to head towards a revolution, history tells us that we will actually end up in a worse place than we started. So if we think that a corrupt government like we have that's in debt, that just deserves to be overthrown, that doesn't deserve to rule, and I don't think this government deserves to rule. There's no doubt about that. But having some wisdom and discernment and understanding, it can get worse.
Yeah.
You can overthrow something or remove it because it doesn't deserve to rule anymore.
And create a vacuum.
And you can actually end up in a worse situation than you were in before. And if we have any hope of restoring something we used to have, or restoring a government that does work by laws and
justice,
and law that equates to justice, then our only hope is to be a Christian people who hold these Christian values. And
because of the way that it anchors the individual person, not just the country as a whole, but it guides and instructs each individual that is participating in not just the revolution, which would be a measured response, a understanding of the sacrifice of war, that it is a tragedy. It's not a exercise of power. It is a tragic reality of conflict, right? So on that side, you have the Christian morality that is informing us of the value of life. And then on the flip side, you have the Christian morality that is anchoring and grounding the potential people who will come in to fill that void or draw that next constitution or whatever it would look like.
Well, and we don't need a next constitution.
No, I know.
But I think it's like the Judeo-Christian values, it does come down to the individual in so many ways, because, Jesus says he'll leave the 99 to save the one. The state, and when I say the state, the greater state, Lenin, the Bolsheviks, the greatest crimes that have ever been committed in humanity are when we other a group, right? And Christianity sees every human as an individual soul, won or lost to Jesus.
An image bearer.
Mm-hmm. And when you, in order to see the collective group of a people or nation in a godly way, you have to see them as individuals, not as a group that can be othered. And the state and the secular will always other groups. And when I say other, make them into something that can be treated away. They don't need as much bread as they need. They can, or they are a problem and a plague in society.
This is eugenics.
Or they're useless eaters.
Yeah.
Or Christians cannot do that. It's not that they're not capable of doing that, but cannot, in alignment with their God's will and values, cannot do that. So generally speaking, the individual is the ultimate minority, kind of comes back to that. And even the pursuit of liberty kind of thing is like, we know in this life there will be trials and troubles, but we can have that's even acknowledged that it's not, the government is not guaranteeing happiness. You know what I mean? Like, the government is not guaranteeing you your dreams, but we do recognize the individual's free will to pursue, their happiness. And again, that's something that a secular state can't even conceive of, has never conceived of. Like, even to this day, I would say, show me an example where a secular state has made a similar declaration. It literally does not compute to them.
I will tell you, because the whole concept, and this was brought forth by our new friend at the ballpark, just the other side of the coin. Again, we were looking
Steve?
at what makes,
shout out to Steve,
what makes this revolution different, meaning the American Revolution, different from these other revolutions where we ended up with fruit and not something worse on the other side of our revolution. Yes, I do believe it is our Christianity as a foundation in this country, or I should say in the people that were here before the country was here, right? They were anchored in Christianity. But if you go back, as Steve said, to what we were rebelling against, or what we were having a revolution against, Britain. Well, Britain had already adopted a lot of the concepts of the earlier Magna Carta, which the Magna Carta in and of itself was also born out of Christian ideology of justice and fairness. Long time before we were ever having an American Revolution. So it is still on both sides. We were rebelling or having a revolution against Britain, but Britain also carried the same, not the same, but that's Judeo-Christian Western civilization ideal was also already in Britain, as influenced by the Magna Carta, because the Magna Carta is probably the most influential document for the Constitution, the American Constitution. I mean, so much of it is, cut and paste, like the concepts of the Magna Carta.
To kind of get into the weeds, there's like,
even the signing of the Magna Carta was like a little mini revolution.
Old systems, that's true. Old systems take so long to revise themselves. You know what I mean? Like where a new system, I mean, we stood up an entirely new form of government
Absolutely.
in the course of less than a decade. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, the Federalist Papers, all this stuff, the Constitution.
Right.
Between the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution to the Bill of Rights, you know, all that stuff, it didn't happen all in one year. But like in the course of a decade, we stood up an entirely new form of government that had really never been anything seen like that on the face of this earth. Yes, the Magna Carta was a precursor.
Well, the Magna
Carta, it would have
Carta,
taken another 500 years for England to get anywhere near where the Americans went in 10 years.
What I mean to say is it kind of was the opposite, where the Magna Carta was signed by the king and didn't eliminate the king. It kind of bound the king to certain just laws that so on the flip side, in America, we're like, first we will have a constitution and then we will build our government from that point forward. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like the Magna Carta worked on the other side of the coin, and the Constitution, it was the beginning point and not, you know.
Well, and actually he made an interesting, if we weren't at a ball game that was like about to start, I would have loved to like complete that conversation with him. Because in fairness to him, like I don't want to say I wanted to argue with him, but I was like, I wanted to challenge him. But he basically said, you know, Canada, Australia.
I also want to push back on that, yeah.
They ended up, you know, free of the king as well later on, and that maybe if we had just waited as the North American colonies or as the American colonies, that we wouldn't have had to fight a revolution and would have had our own
just freedom shipped across the sea one day to us. See, that's the argument of evolution, is if you just give it enough time,
well,
anything's possible.
I would have loved to further that conversation, and I don't want to go so far because he only got to kind of barely get it out, you know, so I would love to know when I push back what he said next, you know what I mean? And frankly, I am not super versed on Canadian and Australian independence and when that came and how it even works today, because they're still like kind of attached to the
certainly not free, right? Canada.
Well, and that was the other thing. I was like, oh gosh, I don't know, because
they're pretty much the same.
Canadians,
he said. I was like, definitely not pretty much the same.
I'd take that Constitution still, and that had to come out of what it came out of.
Yeah.
Canada.
Well, and I would argue that Canada or even Australia are still further fruit of the American Revolution.
Oh yeah, I think they had to get what they got in independence, because we would have taken them if it did, you know what I mean? Like we would have won them over at one point or another too. And that's a whole nother, I shouldn't say them, because Australia wasn't connected to America.
We could speculate how history could have played out all day long, really. But yes, there is a...
Well, and don't even get me, I haven't even mentioned it on our podcast, but don't even get me started on the importance of the Second Amendment. And to make an argument like that, again, I don't want to be too hard on Steve because he barely got to get out his premise, but I would have loved to further that conversation with him. I love stuff like that. And
but it was a totally good point about the Magna Carta. I was like, that's fair, totally fair.
Yes, but
obviously Russia, France, and Cuba were not already operating under a Magna Carta influenced governmentship.
Well, and you could also argue that when the king allowed the Magna Carta in, and his hand was pretty forced, that the Magna Carta was the end of the throne. You know what I mean? It was
in a lot of ways.
It was going to be anyways.
Well, the throne still exists in Britain.
Well, it
became more.
They're just suckers for
tradition.
That's a nice way of putting it. I'll leave it there. I'll let you say that. Look how it's done for them over the last 100 years.
Yeah, he's making a face for you listeners. Mm-hmm.
Look how things are going.
Yeah, the we don't want to be too hard on Steve, is where you were going.
Well, just that. Well, we kind of just hashed that out.
Yeah.
Like that. His premise of this argument was like, if maybe we wouldn't have had to have a revolution if we had just like waited, and we'd be like Canada, and Canada's free of the king now. But
I mean, yeah, because Britain, not only did they not just go give us quiet, freedom, but they came back and tried to take it again. So
the only things I come to mind are super judgmental, where like I would offend Canadians. I've already offended Britons. I don't know. It's hard for me to, not that I am afraid to do those things, but like, I just don't know if it would be right. Well,
that's what I was going to say. You were talking about the Second Amendment, and I was also going to echo that the First Amendment does not exist in Britain or in Canada the way it exists in America, and it only barely is still existing here. And you can see you're now able to be arrested for praying outside of an abortion clinic. Praying, private thoughts, not said out loud, literally thoughts in your head, arrested.
And look what's happening in Britain right now.
No, that's in Britain.
Well, what's his face? Did he get pardoned by Trump? The guy that got arrested for praying in front of an abortion clinic in the United States. Remember?
No, I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Well, we need to find out where he's at, because he was facing, or did get sentenced to like 10 years in prison or something. Where was that?
I remember this.
It was in Tennessee.
What?
Yes.
Gosh.
I'll figure it out, but that's for another time. But either way,
see, it's coming.
I cannot help but point out that Australians gave their guns up in the 90s. Mm-hmm. The Britons gave their guns up in the 90s. They do not have a constitutional amendment that ensures their right to protect themselves. Their government allowed them to be overrun, in Britain specifically, by foreign nationals that are now raping and pillaging their communities, and they are very, very, very limited as to what they can do about it. And to make matters worse, when they speak up about it, they're now being arrested.
Yeah.
This is Britain.
Hate speech.
When you say
the other Western beacon,
was it worth it to have the American Revolution get not only the Constitution, but honestly, I'm gonna go so far as to say American arrogance.
Sure.
Like the God bless it, but like
I've come to appreciate it.
People hate it. Europeans hate it. All sorts of people hate it. Sometimes white liberal women hate it.
They definitely hate it.
But there has been nothing.
It's a spirit, a patriotic
There's been few
spirit.
things greater on this earth than the
It's the greatest
American
country to have
arrogance,
ever existed in the history of Earth, Charlie would say.
100%. That has. It's hard to sum up, because it is both. It's a masculinity. It's
prosperity.
It's a
religious.
Just a fervent,
light on a hill.
Just voracious appetite for freedom and the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of liberty, and
the American dream. It's called the American dream.
I mean,
it's not called the capitalist dream, as in like it could happen anywhere. It's
we manifested
called
destiny, okay? Tell me who else has manifested destiny? That in and of itself is like an arrogant term.
It is.
And honestly, I used to know who coined that term, and I'm not even sure that they're American, but I can't remember. They might be.
What does manifest destiny refer to?
Well, manifest destiny is that basically we were destined as a young nation to stretch from sea to shining sea.
From the mountains.
Okay. And the thing is I love this stuff, obviously, but this is
getting animated.
At the time, like we're talking Thomas Jefferson. He's the third president, right? Mm-hmm. The third president of the United States, and he's already, this is 12 years into like our existence as a nation, right? And he's already planning on taking the whole thing from basically to the other ocean, They don't even know where it's at.
They're like, it's ours though.
They haven't even, Lewis and Clark haven't even gone across the nation yet, but Thomas Jefferson's already making plans. It's basically,
It's happening.
it's happening. He purchases the Louisiana Purchase, which actually doesn't get us, it got us like Oregon up that way to the ocean, but it did not get us
Went
like,
all the way over there.
it did. Yeah.
Wow.
Huge deal. Purchased it from
Huge.
France.
Why was
Again,
it called the
this is-
Louisiana
we're
Purchase
tying-
only?
That was the Louisiana Territory, but that's what France called it or something, because France's hub was New Orleans.
Oh, right.
And
That makes sense.
ironically, this is during to tie it all back in, Napoleon Bonaparte, 15 years of war for France, bankrupted France. Europe was in war for 15 years because of Napoleon. And that's part of why Jefferson got to buy it, is they needed the money. So he got to buy like 2/3 of North America off of France for a steal. And that didn't get us all of like California, in the West, and Texas was not part of it, but still, it was a huge deal. Absolutely massive. But to have such an arrogant, like, I love it. I absolutely love it. Of like, we're like a decade into our country, but we've got big plans.
We've got big dreams.
There's an ocean we've heard about on the other side of this continent we haven't been to yet.
We're getting it.
But we're planning on moving in over there too. I mean, I'm telling you, and I love this country, and the world can and should be grateful for the fact that Americans have a Second Amendment. Because literally we have preserved
That's for sure.
so much just by who we are. Who we are
The spirit.
has reverberated around the globe in and of itself, let alone what we have done. And believe me, I'll sit here and I'll list off all the bad things we've done too. But my goodness, when you're talking about Canadians and Britons who can't post on social media,
That's for sure.
I'll say, man, I'm thankful for the the masculinity of America, if you will, that we were wise enough to say, no, you will never put your boot on our necks. We will always be responsible for ourselves. God bless the Second Amendment.
Again, I just can't even, when we have these conversations, you just are so enamored and in awe by it's apparent divine wisdom of our forefathers. Like, you cannot describe it any other way. How could you possibly have, you definitely didn't have life experience. You're like 27 years old. You only have prophetic foresight given to you by God. Like, that's all that you could possibly explain our founding.
That's it. I think I'm going to say it right now. The next episode that we do is going to be the Appeal to Heaven flag. And maybe some more of the revolution.
We're going to do it.
Because I think, we've hit this hard enough to we almost need to back it up more.
Well, yeah, and we do. I think it's so critical that Americans understand and have pride in our history, because there's, like you said, plenty to be embarrassed about and ashamed of. That's for sure.
I'm not criticizing you because I say that word all the time, but rather than like pride in our history, but like gratitude, because we don't deserve it. I didn't
stand on the shoulders of giants.
100%. I didn't do anything to be born here.
Right.
The Lord put me here, and all I can be is grateful. But gratitude requires action. Does that make sense? Pride does not require action.
That's a great
Gratitude
clarity.
requires action. And so because I didn't do anything to deserve to be born American, but here I am, and I am grateful for it, and I'm grateful for those who went before me.
It's an assignment.
It's an assignment, and it's why I have a responsibility to others and the ones that will come after me to preserve it. Yeah, but
Well, I want to put a bow on it.
Put a bow on it.
With circling back to our 6 stages of leading up to a revolution. if we're in step 4, what's step 4 again? Stage 4, if you will, of
Well,
the, what is it?
I mean, I would just put it's loss of faith in institutions.
Loss of faith in the institutions. I would put us squarely in that stage.
Well, and to really tighten that bow up, like
the bow hasn't begun. I haven't bowed yet.
I'm picking
but
out the
go
bow
ahead.
right now.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm going to pick out the bow. It's going to be a big bow.
You can't tie my bow tighter. I didn't even say anything yet.
I'm picking it out. Revolution is not what we often think it is. It actually is usually historically
bad.
It just goes from bad to worse. Mm-hmm. We are the exception in America that we
can't just assume it'll happen again here.
No.
That is, thank you for bowing. And that is where I was going to go.
The only way, if we identify why was America an exception, and we realize it was because of Christ, it was because of a
Judeo-Christian,
a Christian nation, a nation of Christians that first bound themselves
to principles and values,
to a set of values, biblical values, and then collectively were bound by a set of values. That was our saving grace, no pun intended, literally, spiritually, in the natural, in the revolution, in heaven. We have to remember, and
that shouldn't be our go-to first option, most favorite.
What?
Is revolution. Like sometimes in America, we're like, let's go.
No, it shouldn't be. But also, if we believe it's coming, then we need to pursue becoming that our first priority needs to be pursuing becoming a nation of Christians. That's good. You're tying it up with a bow.
Well, I'm not right. I'm not done.
Our first priority, if we're afraid of this happening again, our first priority needs to be seeking the kingdom of God as individuals and collectively.
And all things will be added to you. Okay, now I'm going to tie the bow.
Yep, I picked out the bow, tie it up, baby.
Now I'm going to tie the bow.
Ow.
Now I'm going to talk. I was just going to say that yes, all those things, but then also, can we, and this was something he posed in the video also, are we able to save this country from the inside? Like, are we able to, without revolution, without guns, without bloodshed, work within the system that was established post the last revolution? I think we still can. I mean, I'm optimistic, let's say. I'm not sure. I'm not certain that it can be done because we are, there's so many markers that we have gone out past that history tells us there's no coming back from. And I don't say that to be scary, just that's the reality. But it also requires action. And the most minimum amount of action is to be an informed and activated voter, period. Like, you cannot not vote. You cannot not vote. Okay. That's like I feel like it should be required before you get your driver's license renewed or something. Like, truly, it is.
You have to come and catch up on all your votes before you. I'm sorry, sir, you're a little behind.
It should be connected to that in some way, or some sort of like privilege that we have. Oopsie daisy. It should be that required of us. That is the minimum. Like, you're talking about gratitude. The very least we could do is participate in the system that people died for us to have. Like, oh my gosh, bottom, minimum, most, lowest bar, right, is that. The second, if you're an even more activated person, and I'm sorry, but voting, that comes with a requirement of being educated about the vote that you're going to make. Okay, those go together without saying, but I'm going to say it. The next thing would be, we have to find ways and find people that are going to fill these places in the system, in the structure that we currently have, right? I'm talking about from the school board all the way up to senators, to cabinet members, et cetera, et cetera. And church, goodness gracious, if not people who are filled and inspired and influenced by the Holy Spirit. Who else? Who else? Because again, there's a vacuum. Someone's going to stand there. And if it's not someone filled with the Holy Spirit, it's somebody filled with a different kind of spirit, if you know what I'm saying. Because there's only two kinds.
Whiskey. Quite
There's
or
three
a
kinds of
different
spirits.
kind of spirit.
So the whole separation of church and state, that'll have to be a part of our American history podcast too, because we're getting it backwards and wrong. And we absolutely need to be taking that ground, because culture... Is it politics is downstream from culture? Is that how it works? Or is culture downstream from politics? I think it's politics is downstream from culture. Either way, we got to be influencing all of it. And
It's a lazy river, actually. It's hard to tell when.
You just don't know.
It just keeps going around.
We are influencing certain elements of culture. Did you know that this week is the first week since the early 90s that a rap song has fallen off of? There's not a single rap song in the top 40. That's pretty crazy. Interesting turn of events. It's been a very long time. Yeah, not a single rap song is in the top 40 right now. However, apparently all of the new Taylor Swift songs.
I was
are in the
literally
top
just
40.
thinking I was going to make a
there you go.
Swifty joke.
But it was an interesting read. This was on Coffee and COVID, where it was talking about, which is a Substack, and I'll put it in the show notes, talking about the history of rap music as a destabilizing element that our CIA has used in other countries. Did you know that? Do you know that history?
I do. And I've really also wanted to talk about the CIA bringing crack cocaine into Los Angeles.
You've wanted to talk about that?
Yeah.
Like on the podcast or to me someday? Because you've literally never talked about that to me.
Oh my gosh. No, I think I was,
Well, the culture of rap music is destabilizing. We could talk all about that in Chicago. Charlie Kirk talked a lot about that. But I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole right now. We'll come back. We'll circle back. But my point is, we're seeing Forrest Frank in the top 40. We're seeing Christian artists. We are seeing an influence of culture. So I don't know if it's downstream or upstream, but that's good. And we need more of that. If we are going to avoid a revolution, then we have got to be active in the system we currently have. If we have any shot.
I'm going to put a bow on your bow.
Oh, you're going to bow my bow?
I'm going to bow.
Double knot.
Okay. The amount of, in the whole like politics and culture thing, the amount that we are influencing the world around us right now, like people are awakening and talking and exchanging ideas right now like we haven't in a really long time. And it is shaking things up. You know, I mean, you got Ted Cruz getting called out by Tucker. You got like there's...
I'm not following that story. Well, you'll have to film
whatever. It. There's just so much going on where, yeah, we got Christian artists in the top 40. We've got like the church is starting to... It's like we're awakening a sleeping giant right now is the way I would say it. And all I want to say is just like, I want you to be encouraged by that.
Yeah.
Like whatever you see, like, is there bleakness on the horizon, despair?
Always.
Is there darkness? Yeah, who cares?
We live under the curse.
The church is waking up right now, and just find your place in that and know that you have one without a doubt, a calling on your life, and to answer that call and walk it out, because we're just seeing the beginnings of this, and it's going to get far more exciting, far more, like we're going to see beautiful things, more miracles are going to happen. And I just want you to be encouraged in that like it's just getting going and you have a role to play in it.
Good bow on my bow, on your bow. Bowed up. I'm going to call this the bows episode.
Bowing up.
Bowing up. All right. Anyway, thanks. Subscribe. Bye. Thanks for joining us on the Modern Watchman podcast.
Remember, truth isn't just something we believe, it's something we live out every day.
Stay alert, stay discerning, and don't lose sight of the hope we have in Christ.
Until next time,
Be watchmen.